We're going to get started since there's a lot of material to get through tonight. Tonight is an introduction, an overview of the whole program, and there's a lot of information to bring to you, so I want to get going and get you out of here on time. My name is Austin Backus, and I am a physician. I'm trained in urgent care medicine. I'm trained in family medicine. I work as an urgent care physician and have done now for about 17 years. And I'm really looking forward to working with all of you as we go through this journey together. For those of you who have quit before, who have never quit, who've thought about quitting, who've maybe never smoked yourself, but you're looking for information on how to help someone else who's thinking about quitting, I hope that all this information I'm going to go through is going to give you benefit towards moving into an important step of life, that you will find a way towards living free from nicotine in all its forms, and there's lots of good reasons to quit. This presentation, the first one, is called Up in Smoke, and we're going to be looking at the basics, practical lifestyle steps, the brain-body connection, and building spiritual, mental, and emotional strength to not only get free, but stay free from nicotine. Now, your decision to quit is opening the door to a new lifestyle, a new way of thinking, and a new and healthier way of living. Millions of people have quit nicotine in all forms, for good. Many former smokers or nicotine users who started using even in childhood or youth and struggled with the habit for years have quit. Even if you tried without success many times, you are one step closer to complete and lasting freedom just by entering and listening to this information. Stay with us, regardless of whether you're planning to quit right now or eventually, or even if you're just curious about, well, what would it be like, or why would I want to quit? The struggle to quit tobacco is real. 2 out of 10 adults struggle with tobacco. Most start before the age of 18. And 7 out of 10 smokers want to quit. If you're attending this seminar tonight, or if you're watching online or on TV, then I hope that you are in that 70% of smokers who want to quit, because smoking is so incredibly deadly. Tobacco addiction is the leading cause of preventable death in the United States. Anybody know how many men the U.S. lost in the Vietnam War over 10 years? Any guesses? I heard 55,000. Yeah, 60,000 I think is the statistic they give me here. 60,000. Tobacco addiction kills about 480,000 people a year. That was 60,000 over 10 years. 480,000 people a year from tobacco addiction-related illness and death. That's about 1,300 each day. That's like 4 747 airplanes crashing per day. It's double the death toll for AIDS, car crashes, illegal drugs, murders, and suicides combined. The Nobel Prize-winning chemist and physiologist Linus Pauling calculated once and said, each cigarette smoke shortens your life expectancy by 14.4 to 14.8 minutes. He was very precise, but I guess that's why he got a Nobel Prize. Think about this then. So you got a pack of 20 cigarettes. 20 times 14 minutes each is 280 minutes. That's 4 hours and 40 minutes of life expectancy decreased with every pack of cigarettes smoked. But hey, someone might object, I don't smoke tobacco. I get my nicotine by vaping. That's not so bad, right? Well, let's address the myth early on of, well, vaping is better than cigarettes. Maybe I could switch to vaping instead of smoking cigarettes. Vaping and e-cigarettes are causing more, not less, nicotine addiction. And nicotine is not harmless in any form. E-cigarettes, commonly referred to as vapes, are different. There are different variations in the delivery systems. All of these various types get lumped into a category called ENDS, electronic nicotine delivery systems. ENDS. A bit on the nose if you think of the term dead ends. The illusion of e-cigarettes comes in several forms. The original idea was that an e-cigarette would just deliver nicotine and help smokers wean off of tobacco. Actually, many smokers use cigarettes in addition to e-cigarettes or vapes. The inhalation of smoke or vapor is faster and more potent in ENDS systems, as opposed to even a skin patch. Thousands of sweet flavors for the vape juices create an illusion of harmlessness, and this illusion is attracting and trapping thousands of teens and preteens in the nicotine habit. E-cigs don't create a noxious smell. They're easier to hide. But some would say, well, yes, but at least they're safer than cigarettes, right? Because cigarettes, we know, those have carcinogens, they have toxins, they have radioactive material, they're pollutants, right? Well, are they safe, says the American Thoracic Society? The simple answer is no. Tobacco-related toxins and carcinogens have also been found in the aerosol vapor of ENDS products. There's increasing evidence that inhaled nicotine from ENDS damages lung tissue, lowers the body's natural resistance to infections and to cancers. Although much is yet unknown about the long-term safety of vaping, there is plenty of cause for concern. In the United States, youth are more likely than adults to use e-cigarettes or vapes. Studies show that young people who use e-cigarettes are more likely to smoke cigarettes in the future. As the slide says, nicotine use in childhood and adolescence causes changes in the brain involved with judgment and impulse control. Those changes, as you can imagine, will make lifelong addiction more likely. This altered brain development may also worsen underlying mental health conditions, leading to greater risk of hyperactivity, depression, and anxiety. All of those are booming amongst our youth. Vaping has become cool, but there's nothing cool about any addiction, especially in the young. And what are the levels of nicotine in vape juice? Although nicotine levels in cigarettes can vary from brand to brand, e-juice has standard quantities across the market. One cigarette can deliver anywhere from 4 to 14 milligrams of nicotine. 10 puffs of an e-cig will deliver roughly the same amount of nicotine as a cigarette. Specialized juices can deliver lower doses, all the way to drug hits as high as 42 milligrams. Now please notice, because e-liquids contain highly concentrated liquid nicotine, as little as a half teaspoon of the concentrated liquid nicotine can kill a young child. E-liquids should be kept well out of the reach of children. E-juices are advertised in flavors. You notice how the smelly odor of tobacco is then replaced with the taste and smell of delectable foods and drinks. A powerful hit to multiple sensory centers that can work to really powerfully reinforce nicotine addiction. Furthermore, there's a social component to nicotine in the electronic form via hookah lounges. The hookahs are water pipes that are used to smoke specially made tobacco that comes in different flavors: apple, mint, cherry, coconut. Hookah smoking is typically done in groups, with the same mouthpiece passed from person to person. It's a social experience. But regardless of the method through which you're addicted to nicotine, there are plenty of reasons to quit. Tobacco and e-cigarettes are costly. They cause addiction, and they create serious mental and physical health challenges. Let's do the math on the cost of nicotine. If you smoke, the average cost of a pack of cigarettes in 2024 in Wisconsin was $7.93. We'll round that to $8. You have a one pack a day habit, that comes out to $56 a week, $224 per month, $2,688 per year. Now, if you're smoking 2 packs a day, well, that's $5,376 a year. Could you have found anything else to do with that money, do you think? I think looking back at 2024, I could think of plenty of ways I could have spent $5,376. Now that handout, hopefully those of you who are attending the seminar this evening received the handout entitled Know Your Reasons. And these handouts are available to you in the meetings here. We're going to be making them available as well as links on the YouTube videos so that you'll be able to download them if you're watching the series. But this handout called Know Your Reasons will help you calculate your specific financial burden from smoking, the potential savings from quitting, as well as taking an inventory of all the other ways that tobacco, nicotine, may be costing you. Any addiction is a heavy chain around your neck, and it's a hit to the quality and length of your life. Not just yours, but others too. Nicotine addiction has a variety of factors, a number of battlefields that you must simultaneously encounter. We'll look at the battlefields of your brain, your emotions, your environment, your social connections, and your spiritual life. And you're going to get that same framework repeated over and over as you attend night after night. We're going to look at all the different angles by which nicotine gets its hooks in, but all the different angles that are also tools to break free. In the brain battlefield, the initial drug effects of nicotine include elevated stress hormones and dopamine, which produce a quick lift. Dopamine is a brain chemical linked to feelings of joy and happiness, as well as learning and motivation. Multiple brain circuits are altered when an addiction occurs, so normal activities don't kindle the same pleasant feelings. When nicotine is stopped, it leaves the system within 30 hours of the last dose. But it takes a lot longer for the structure and function of the brain to recover after stopping nicotine. And it takes intentional work to reprogram the emotions and thought patterns of your brain to defeat this addiction. That's why it's also an emotional and environmental battle. Habits of thinking and responses to environmental triggers must be confronted and reprogrammed. Just as nicotine has remodeled your nerve endings and your brain chemistry to feel and believe a certain way, God, the designer and creator of your brain, can repair and reprogram your impulses. But you have to be intentional to reprogram your mind. You have to be intentional with your habits of thought. Your nicotine addiction trains you to not just enjoy the effects of nicotine, but to want it, to crave it, to convince yourself that you need it in order to feel normal. as you begin removing nicotine from your brain, you'll find yourself falling into the I need deception. So a great phrase to memorize is not an option. When your brain yells, I need nicotine and I need it now, your reply should immediately become, that's not an option. The things you tell yourself become more real and true the more often you say them. Just as you need to be intentional with your habits of thought, you need to be intentional with your habits of behavior. Now, we're going to go into this in greater detail, but I'm sure that each of you has a routine or a trigger that takes place as you prepare to smoke or vape. You'll need to identify these triggers and make intentional changes to those routines. There are many phrases and mottos you can internalize and repeat many times a day as you battle addictive routines, such as, I hate nicotine. I have better ways to respond to this situation. And as we progress through this series, we'll help you explore those better ways to find the ones which specifically help you to intentionally reprogram your thoughts and your behaviors. Just as you need to be intentional with your habits of thought and intentional with your habits of behavior, it is also, above all, important to be intentional in giving God permission to change your thoughts and behaviors. As you give God permission to change your mind, you will find that these new thoughts and behaviors about your old habit will become new habits. Quick review. I just mentioned, what are a couple good phrases to memorize and repeat? Anybody catch any one of those two? There were two specific phrases. I hate nicotine, and it's not an option. Not an option. The nicotine challenge is a social battle as well. Speaking of not an option, if nicotine's not an option, then places that actively promote nicotine use are not an option. The sports bar, the pool hall, the cocktail lounge, no longer an option. Especially while you're in the early phase of quitting, maybe even just the gas station or the convenience store where you usually purchase your nicotine materials is not an option. When you quit drinking, smoking, or any other harmful habit, you will lose or change your relationship to the people and places connected with these habits. These activities need to be replaced, and sometimes that means replacing or changing unhealthy relationships with healthier ones. Now, professional guidance may be needed here. And I want to encourage each of you to already be thinking about that concept of professional guidance. Nicotine addiction gets its hooks into you physically, emotionally, and socially, and you will benefit from seeking the help of professional counselors and physicians who are trained in helping people overcome addiction. And for those of you who are attending for the first time here, you will meet and have some presentations directly from Dan, but I just want to point out right away, Dan is a licensed counselor. He's a professional and has experience in helping people make tough decisions and go through change, and he wants to make himself available to you as a resource as you start looking into how to do this for yourself. The final battlefield, which underlies all the other areas we've discussed, is the spiritual battlefield. Satan is our enemy, and he will attempt to control your thoughts and emotions with a thought that you cannot be free. As the Bible says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. But praise God, Satan is defeated and his time is short. Jesus died to destroy the works of the devil. In the Bible, the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10, Jesus calls Satan a thief who only wants to steal, kill, and destroy your health, your hope, your happiness. But Jesus says he came to give you an abundant life of health, stability, freedom, courage, and joy. Every person's journey to freedom is different. Different strategies work for different people. Some people will be relieved of their symptoms and urges more quickly than others. But one thing is sure, God will give you wisdom, guidance, and success in your journey. He will build you to face life's pressures, balance your relationships, and boost your health through a healthy lifestyle. And there is good news about the biochemistry of your brain and addiction. Ready for some good news? Your brain is constantly reshaping itself according to what it learns. This is why the repetition of phrases such as not an option and I hate nicotine are actually helpful in and of themselves, because your brain physically responds and remodels to acknowledge the truth of what you say. And God created our brains and bodies with multiple backup systems to compensate during the process of healing and restoration. In fact, new nerve cells are born in the brain every day with healthy lifestyle choices. So welcome to Living Free. Quit nicotine for good. Thousands of people have quit smoking for good, and you can be one of them using this program. In these 10 sessions, you will receive the support, encouragement, and tools that you've been looking for to help you kick any smoking or nicotine habit for good. In this program, we're going to help you plan for what we call Quit Day. This method has proved to be successful in helping thousands of people quit tobacco in all forms. You can do it. If you feel you need additional medical support, please also work with a physician. Now, it may have been a long time since you lived free of nicotine in your system, so let's look at what positive benefits you can expect as you overcome this addiction. These are all summarized on the handout that you should have received entitled Health Impacts and Healing. It takes about 30 hours for nicotine to clear your system. But even before that, within 20 minutes after your last cigarette or your last intake of nicotine, your heart rate and blood pressure goes back to your pre-nicotine baseline. Your breathing becomes easier. And within 8 hours, your oxygen levels return to normal. Now, by normal, I mean your baseline oxygen level, taking into consideration any permanent damage your lungs may have suffered from smoking. Within 2 days, taste and smell improve, as nerves in your mouth, nose, and sinuses and throat regrow. And the benefits don't stop there. Within 2 to 3 weeks, your circulation, your heart, and your lung function improves. You start to get healthy color to your skin again. In 1 to 9 months, the chronic smoker's cough improves, and your energy level increases. In 1 year after quitting nicotine, your risk of heart attack drops by 50%. In 5 years, your risk of lung cancer drops by 50%. And in 5 years, your risk of stroke now becomes the same as someone who has never smoked. In 2 years, your risk of relapsing and resuming nicotine use drops to just 5%. You've made the decision to quit for important reasons. Smoking, chewing, snuff, nicotine use in any form are more than a drug addiction. They're a social addiction, a culture, a mindset, and a lifestyle. As you progress along this journey to freedom, I encourage you to consider 3 R's. 3 techniques that all start with the letter R. Number 1, remember. Remember what you hate about this addiction and why you want to quit. Number 2, reframe. Reframe your thoughts. Don't see this process as, I'm giving up a really fun habit. See this as, I'm gaining life, new life for myself. Organize your thoughts and your actions according to the truth you are learning about the importance of quitting, not the untrustworthy feelings and impulses that a craving can bring. This is where those phrases we mentioned earlier are particularly helpful. Your brain sends a message, I need nicotine. I love how I feel when I have nicotine. You reframe that by intentionally speaking the truth, even if you don't feel that way at the moment. I hate nicotine. Your brain cries out, I need nicotine. I have to have nicotine right now. There's no other way, no other choice. You reframe that by speaking your intention, even if you don't feel like it right then. Nicotine is not an option for me anymore. The third R is resolve. We all need knowledge, guidance, and power from God to get free and stay free from any addiction, but it all begins with a choice. Your choice. You can resolve to change. You can choose to be free. So there's the 3 R's. These 3 R's are your foundation for building a new life, a life free from nicotine. Can you repeat them with me together? Let's just repeat these with conviction. Number 1 is remember. Number 2 is reframe. And number 3, resolve. Okay, it's time for a little interaction. We're going to have a couple discussion questions, and I'd like to encourage anyone to answer, whether you're attending the seminar as a current smoker, a former smoker, or a never smoker. If you have something to contribute, please do. We're going to ask you to speak into a microphone that we'll be bringing around to anybody who wants to speak. Don't worry, the video camera will remain focused on me, not on you. You didn't have to dress up fancy tonight. All right, let's go to some discussion questions. How is tobacco more than a drug addiction? Thinking about your own experience or just what you've seen in the seminar tonight, how is tobacco more than a drug addiction? Anyone? Steve?
It's actually a social thing. I mean, I remember smoking with friends and enjoying it and having a wonderful time with it.
It has a reinforcement in the social world, correct. Any other answers to how is tobacco more than a drug addiction? We talked about a variety of battlefields that you face when you're quitting nicotine.
It has a mental and psychological component, the hand-to-mouth, putting your hand to your mouth.
Like a training, like almost a reflex. Yes.
I had a girlfriend who smoked, and she said that when she was under big stress, that was the trigger for her
Mm-hmm.
to, for example, her brother died, and she felt like she had to smoke.
Mm-hmm. So it develops an association as this is a way that I can manage something stressful going on in my life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on that question?
The other thing going on the association thing, a lot of times it's tied to coffee or alcohol. I mean, a lot of times, yes, there's the social component, but it's like stimulants seem to stimulate each other and encourage one another. So there tends to be a tie-in with both of those.
There's synergy. There's synergy, yeah.
Yes, in a bad way.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the next question now. What are my reasons for living free? I would like to encourage our guests who are currently smoking or who have maybe quit and are here for support and staying quit. Anybody who's smoked before or is currently smoking, I'd really like to get your input on this. What are your reasons for wanting to live free? Did anything here ring for you as, hey, that is a reason that I think would make sense for me to want to quit, even if I'm not ready to quit yet? That would be a reason. Does anybody have a thought on that?
Spiritually,
Spiritually, okay.
family health.
The health of your family. Any other reasons that jumped out? And you can have the same reasons as someone else too, but speaking them, remember, starts to remodel your brain. Putting these things to the front of your brain and making it an intentional thing is helpful.
My health, I don't know if you guys remember, but last year I was on oxygen because I couldn't breathe. And, well, damn, I was sick too.
The health of your pet.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. So your own health and the health of your beloved pet. Okay. Got another question. Again, targeted to the people who are actively thinking about quitting or at least currently smoking and think it might need to change. How will my quality of life improve without nicotine? Can you see a positive? We've talked about now what are the negatives? What do I want to get rid of? Why do I want to stop? What would I gain? Your health. Better health. Was there a specific, because we ran through a list of the different things that change in your health in the days, weeks, and months after quitting smoking. Was there one there that leaped out at you?
Breathing issue.
Breathing. Yes. Okay. Anyone else? Robbie?
I think over time it can also affect intelligence.
Intelligence. Okay. So you're seeing that as something that would be improved by getting this out of your system. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So let's talk details. How does this Living Free program actually work? Living Free is much more than just a quit nicotine seminar. Your primary goal, yes, is to quit nicotine, but experience has shown that people are most successful at overcoming addiction if they do it as part of a total health lifestyle intervention. What is a total health lifestyle intervention? It doesn't just help you quit addiction, it also helps you achieve and maintain your healthy weight, control blood sugar and diabetes, lower blood pressure and heart disease risk, and improve your mental and spiritual health. I heard a lot of those benefits coming out from what people were saying here as we were talking. Potent, powerful, and protective keys are available to help you achieve and maintain a life of living free for good. In this segment, we're looking at the first 3 steps to living free from nicotine. First steps are know your reasons, cut down to cut out, and reboot and rebound. The most important first step in living free from nicotine is to know the reasons why you're quitting. There's a handout you were given tonight called Know Your Reasons. This is going to help you to personalize your reasons why quitting is good for you. Write them down. Go through that handout, work the handout, write it down, and repeat these reasons to yourself many times a day. As you do this, you will discover new reasons too, because your mind has now been set in a new direction, a new way of thinking. Quitting nicotine is beneficial at any age. It doesn't matter how long you've been using or how much life you believe remains ahead of you. Some common reasons to quit nicotine will include the effects on your physical and mental health, the effect on others, your family, your children, your friends, and Robbie, I'm going to add your pets. You're absolutely right. The effect on your bank account. It's expensive to use nicotine. and perhaps you've been feeling that God is speaking to your heart about this habit. For example, you ever heard this Bible verse before? Don't you know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit which is in you, which you have from God? You are not your own. 1 Corinthians. Our bodies were created to be a sacred place, a temple or dwelling place for God's Spirit. We are accountable to Him for the way in which we care for our bodies. And praise God, He's always willing to help us take stock of the habits which are cluttering up the temple of our body and mind, and help us clean up the temple. Step 2, cut down to cut out. Remember, we said this program will help you prepare for a quit day. I'm excited to make this offer to you. Your quit day could be as soon as session 3, which would be this coming Saturday, February 22nd, 2 nights from now. On quit day, we ask that you quit all tobacco and nicotine, and then you would proceed to have our close support through the next 2 weeks through daily check-ins from a living free friend, plus frequent nightly meetings to give you more tools and encouragement along the way. This may seem sudden. Your brain might be rebelling right now at the very idea. 2 days from now? 2 days from now, I won't get any more nicotine from smoking, vaping, chewing, or whatever it might be. But this is part of the living free process. We move fast against the enemy. Statistically, most people who successfully quit smoking do so by going cold turkey, not by gradually cutting back with a vague intention of quitting someday. However, I encourage you to think of the living free process as more than cold turkey. We're not just taking something away from our brains and habits. We are replacing and remodeling. Remember, we're reframing this. It's not just what's going away, it's what's being introduced in. Now, we must keep in mind we're enlisting the help of the God who created our brains and who can work powerfully to remodel us as we give Him permission to work. Now, what if that seems too soon to you? Too soon to quit in 2 days. That's okay. You can choose to see session 3 as the day I will choose my quit day. Or you may want to go through the whole program before you're ready to try quitting. Some people even go through the whole program once in person, and then they watch it again on video before they attempt quitting. This is why we're filming all 10 sessions and posting them on the Watertown SDA Church YouTube channel so that you can have them for future reference. No one should feel pressured, but you should feel encouraged that we support you. And we want to help you, we want to help you be physically, mentally, and spiritually ready to quit. Even if you don't plan on quitting on day 3, please don't walk out of here tonight and go, well, I'm not going back. I mean, that's not for me. No. Please continue attending all the meetings. The whole series has good information which will equip you whether you quit now, a week from now, a year from now. Now, between now and your quit day, I'm going to assume, I'm talking to you guys assuming right now that you're thinking, yeah, sure, day 3, I'll give it a shot. What do I have to lose? Assuming now that you're going to try to quit on day 3, between now and your quit day, step 2 is cut down. Try to cut down 1 or more cigarettes each day. If you're a 1-pack-a-day smoker, that means you aim to intentionally smoke only 19 cigarettes in a day, and then 18 cigarettes the day after. Or even fewer than that if you feel strongly motivated to give the process all you've got. And I want to add in one other tip here. I have used this tip so much over the years with people that I see in my urgent care who come in with their lung conditions going on and they're still smoking and they know that their lungs are getting worse and worse, but they're not ready to quit yet. This is a tip that I found so helpful. I learned this from an addiction specialist when I was in my medical school training in Southern California, a specialist who had done research on nicotine and the brain. It's called the just-a-minute technique. Every time you feel the urge to smoke one of your intentional cigarettes, go ahead and smoke it. That doesn't sound that revolutionary, does it? How many of you have already gone ahead and smoked when you felt like smoking? However, there's one little piece that you're adding in there. First, you tell yourself, just a minute, and you make yourself count to 10 before you light up. Just 10 seconds, just 10 seconds. What you're doing is you're procrastinating doing the task that your brain has asked you to fulfill. Your addicted brain says, give me now, and you say, coming right up, boss, just a minute. You're telling yourself just a minute before you close the nicotine circuit that your brain desires. You're showing your brain who's actually boss, and you're starting to realize you do have a choice in this process, even if it's just a choice of, I'll wait 10 seconds before I go ahead and smoke this cigarette. Now what you do is, depending on how far out you're planning to actually quit, you just keep on lengthening that time. You might count to 10 for each cigarette smoked for a few days, a week. Then you might lengthen that to 20, then to 30, Nothing drastic happening there, but what you're doing is you're training your brain to know who's in charge, who's the boss. And what you may find is that you'll eventually start skipping some of those intentional nicotine hits. Just a minute, boss. Just a minute. I'm counting. And by the time you get to 40, 50, 60, your brain goes, cancel the order. I don't think I need that one. Now, the third of the first steps is begin making healthy lifestyle choices which help you reboot and rebound. This comes back to the concept of a total health lifestyle intervention. Learning skills and making choices that detox and de-stress you. Lifestyle choices that help you reach and maintain your healthful weight as you build a better brain. What are some of these healthy lifestyle choices? We're going to lay out the framework of those choices tonight, and then you're going to notice if you continue to attend each night, we'll go deeper into detail in each of these areas. Plus, your handout entitled Building a Better Brain One Bite at a Time also goes into much more detail right away on this area. Drink plenty of water. At least 6 to 8 cups a day. Keeps the blood moving as it removes toxins, helps cut cravings, improves circulation, and improves your immune health. Now here's a common objection to the idea of drinking more water. I don't like water. Water's boring. Doesn't have any taste. Usually what this really means is your brain has also developed a preference for other addictive substances that are commonly found in beverages. Sugar, caffeine. But there are ways to make water more exciting for yourself at this phase in your process of change, such as flavoring your water by adding fresh lemon or lime, a few mint leaves, a dash of juice. You can also get plenty of water by drinking an herbal, non-caffeinated tea. Drinking water is an excellent good habit to develop as you defeat the bad habit of nicotine. Now, I recommend you buy a cool water bottle to carry with you wherever you go. I'm a water fanatic. I only drink water. I can give you some quick tips, by the way, on buying a water bottle. Okay? I recommend you invest in a good metal double-layered bottle. It'll keep your water at whatever temperature it is that you like. Keeps it cold, cold, keeps it warm, warm, keeps it hot, hot. Think about which kind of mouthpiece you prefer. It seems like a silly detail. There's a lot of different mouthpieces out there. This one's more of a sucking action, but I like it because I can flip it up and drink with my head pointed down, as opposed to having to tilt my head up. That's just my preference. There's wide mouths, there's narrow mouths. Screw-on lids, pop-off lids. Try to pick a water bottle that won't tip over easily. How many of you have been somewhere and you heard the clang of a water bottle falling over? Yeah, you don't want to be that person. Get a water bottle that won't tip over. Think about getting one that has some kind of a way to carry it. Mine happens to have two. This one is a clip, so I can clip it into a backpack or a car seat or anything I want. And, last tip, spend a couple bucks on a bottle brush. One that's got a narrow tip that you can use to clean out that mouthpiece. You'll love that. You'll love that. Once you've got a clean water bottle, it smells good all the time, tastes good all the time, it'll have been worth it for you. Another reboot and rebound skill to implement as you encounter nicotine withdrawal is fill up on fresh fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. They contain powerful compounds called antioxidants and phytochemicals. These foods help detox your body and your brain. They mop up dead cells. They remove waste. They lower inflammation. What are some specific ideas to increase your intake of these healthy foods? Well, start with what the picture shows up on the slide. Put some healthy foods in your grocery bag. Turns out, the food you buy at the grocery store turns out to be the food you eat at home. So pick your favorite fruit and buy it. Pick your favorite vegetable and buy it. Fresh is best, but if you'd rather start with a frozen veggie or a canned fruit, that's okay. Go for it. There's about 100 different types of bagged fresh salad mixes in your produce section. Have you ever walked past that section in the grocery store? How many different salad mixes do they need to have? There's plenty there. Now you get to pick one. Find one that catches your eye and give it a try. These foods help repair stress damage in the brain, and they provide real energy and strength. Eating colorful fruits and vegetables has been shown to lower irritability, stress, and sleeplessness. At the start of your day, treat yourself to a power breakfast. Enjoy a healthy portion of fresh fruit, whole grains and nuts, especially walnuts. Those are high in omega-3 fats. These foods combine to give you a balanced mix of nutrients that provide a steady flow of energy to power you throughout the day. Starting your day right is actually important. That's probably the only part of the Cold cereal commercial that is correct. Starting your day right is important. Eating breakfast gives a satisfying feeling, so you're less likely to reach for something stimulating like caffeine or sugar later on in the morning. Whole grains and fresh fruits give you slow-release energy. They fuel your mind and your body for the day's tasks. If you don't eat breakfast, your body has to run on nervous energy, and when that happens, stress levels skyrocket. High stress hormone levels combined with low food fuel make you more moody, leading to an increased craving for, what's that thing we're hoping to quit? Nicotine, as well as sugar and caffeine and just that snacky action all day long. Another reboot and rebound tactic to use as you navigate nicotine withdrawal is go for 1 or more 10-minute walks each day, outside in the fresh air if possible, as long as you're not at risk for hypothermia. And it is so vital to take time to get enough rest. The first few days of nicotine withdrawal sap your energy, just like when you're recovering from a cold. Plan on giving your brain extra sleep during the first few days of withdrawal from nicotine. Remember, you're making these intentional positive choices in order to remodel and restore your brain, to win the battle for the brain. God has designed your brain to continually reshape itself. God's promises and power will help you break free from all forms of nicotine addiction. It is God's intent for you to live an abundant life, a life of victory. Thousands of people quit smoking every day. You can be one of them. Take a moment and just repeat that in your own head. I can be one of them. You may not see the way there yet. You may have tried before and quote unquote failed. But you can be someone who quits nicotine. How? All right, it's time to discuss again. So let's get our roving microphone. We've got a couple questions, and these questions will come up again in the next few sessions as we prompt you to think about and verbalize the steps that you're going to be taking. First question is, which of the keys to living free are you ready to implement? And what is your action step? So we talked about knowing your reasons, cutting down to cut out. Within there we talked about the just a minute technique. And then we talked about reboot and rebound. Water, diet, exercise, and sleep. Which of these seem like they would be the easiest for you to implement? Which of these seems most intriguing for you to implement? Any answers? I encourage you to speak them.
I like it just a minute,
The just a minute?
just another minute,
Mhm.
or to find something else to do to kind of redirect your attention.
Right? And that's very true what you're saying there, to find something else to do to redirect your attention. That's how you really make the most of the just a minute technique. It's not necessarily just, okay, for 10 seconds I'm going to sit here thinking about how much I want that cigarette. But
I'll go do the dishes.
exactly. If all you manage to do is stand there and grudgingly count to 10 at first, great. But what you're aiming for eventually is during those 10 seconds or those 20 seconds or 30 seconds, well, while I'm counting, boss, I'm going to go do this thing. I'll check back with you in a moment. And by the time you get around to checking back from doing the dishes, letting the dog out, putting the thing down on the table, the brain might now say, I don't actually need it as much as I thought I needed it. And again, it's really just emphasizing, rebuilding, and reemphasizing that you are able to make a choice in the situation. You might still end up giving in to that urge at that moment, but you're learning that you can make a choice. Anyone else? Any thoughts on those steps that we've talked about so far? Anything sound possible for you at some point in the future? Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but possible. While you're thinking, I want to add one other question in here. To our friends who currently or have smoked, how many of you have ever quit smoking before or quit using nicotine in any form before? Let's just see a raised hands. Okay. We're going to define quitting as intentionally didn't use nicotine for longer than I normally would go without it. Okay? I'm not going to ask how long you stayed quit before you relapsed or how many times you quit before, but I want to encourage each of you with this concept, okay? As you sit here and you think, okay, yeah, there's these steps, and I could take these steps, but maybe you're starting to think, yeah, but I've taken steps like this before. I've tried to quit smoking before. Whatever method I did, whether it was with a medication, a patch, cold turkey, any of the many other ways, hypnotherapy, laser, there's so many different ways that people have tried quitting smoking, and many of those ways will work for many people. But regardless of which way you've used before, if you're back to smoking now, if you're back to using nicotine now, I want to encourage you with this concept. The average ex-smoker, so someone who can now claim, I no longer smoke. The average ex-smoker quits 6 to 8 times before staying quit for good. Don't take that as a depressing statistic. Why? This means that most nicotine users go through a cycle, a few cycles of quitting and resuming using, learning from their mistakes, and then trying to quit once again. This means we have to redefine the concept of failure. As in, well, I quit nicotine, but then I started smoking again, so I failed. You don't fail at quitting. You relapse while quitting. Am I just playing with words here? No, listen, every time you relapse, what you're doing is you're completing a cycle of learning. And you are learning about yourself. You're learning what the factors are that worked for you to quit, but what were the factors that brought you back from quitting to using again? You're learning from those mistakes. As long as you learn something from that cycle and then you try again, you have not failed, you have learned. The only way you fail at quitting smoking is if you fail to try quitting again. This is a big reframe that we're doing here. You may not have thought of it in this way before. I like to think of it in comparison with the movie Groundhog Day. Any of you seen Groundhog Day with Bill Murray? Yeah. He plays a man stuck in a time loop. He's living the same day over and over and over again. And at first it drives him mad, and at times it drives him mad with powers. He realizes he can do whatever he wants. He literally can't really die. Even if he dies, he wakes up again the following morning. He keeps doing the same thing over and over and over. But then what he starts realizing is, hey, this is an opportunity for me to make change. This is an opportunity for me to figure out what's not pleasant about me, what is not working with me and how I get along with others, and make changes in my character and his treatment of others. And he finally breaks free of that cycle and is able to go on with his life. That's what you're doing when you quit nicotine. You are aiming to break fully free, but you're learning about yourself along the way. So, back to the questions on the screen. Which of the keys to living free are you ready to implement? Giving yourself permission to acknowledge that you've quit smoking before and yet here you are again, and that it actually doesn't mean you're a failure. All it means is you relapsed, and you can learn something from that relapse, and you're going to go on and try it again. I would really like to encourage each of you here who is thinking about quitting smoking to put something in the front of your mind right now from that list that we've been through, from the concepts we've hit this evening, that you feel, yes, that's a step I could take. Whether it's the just a minute technique, just going to start cutting down a little bit. I'm going to start thinking about maybe that water thing, I'll give it a try. I could eat a little bit of vegetables. Well, let's listen to what an ex-smoker learned about himself in his journey to freedom from nicotine. I think most of you here know him, Mr. Steve Mertens. I'm going to invite him to come up here and speak to us for a couple minutes about his experience, his story.
Well, my father was in World War II, and he came out of the war smoking, smoked Lucky Strikes unfiltered, 2 packs a day by the time I came along. My mother was smoking at least 2 packs a day of Salem's. So our house was really very, very smoky, and I actually hated it. It was the worst place in the world. Every time I came home, I could smell the smell, and I hated it, and swore I was never going to smoke. Never going to smoke. Never touch one of them. My grandmother would come over she lived across the street, she'd come over and smoke at our house because her husband, my grandfather, wouldn't let her smoke in the house. He hated it too. Well, I went to high school and I found a girl that thought it was cool to smoke. And so she wanted me to smoke with her, and so I smoked with her. And it became to the point where every time we were together, we smoked. Well, she went off to college at Oshkosh, I went off to college at Platteville, and so it wasn't any real big connection there. So I kind of cut way back. I smoked a little bit my freshman year, but not a lot. And then I met two friends that both smoked. So of course I started smoking again too. And I was smoking about, 10 to 15 cigarettes a day. And it was always after a meal. And it was always in the evening, never during the day. I know my father, when he got up in the morning, he lit a cigarette. I didn't do any of that. I just always in the evening. It was always a social thing. So after I graduated from college, I got married, and I was smoking at my house with my wife, and she didn't like it. So she encouraged me very strongly to quit. And so I said, okay, fine. There's smoking by myself. I was working on third shift. She was working first shift. We hardly saw each other, and there wasn't any social connection there, so I just quit. Never picked up a cigarette again. It was like wow, it was easy, simple. I don't know how people can have such a hard time quitting. It's like they must be, defective or something. So I was not smoking for a while, and then one of my college roommates came and lived in our house for 7 months. And I not only just started smoking, I was smoking more than a pack a day. I was also smoking a pipe, and I was smoking cigars, and it was like a chimney. It was like really a lot. And my roommate finally moved out, and I thought, well, I'll just quit again. That wasn't that easy. It was like I tried really hard. I tried and tried and tried. And I don't know how many times I tried and quit and started again. Dr. Backus was talking 6 or 7, 9, I don't know, it was a dozen or more. But it never lasted very long. A couple days, maybe a week, and then I'd be back to smoking again. So finally we started taking Bible studies, and this church that we were going to join didn't like smoking. And so I thought, well, now there's an impetus. Now I've got a reason other than my wife who hated the smoking. I can quit. So I tried really hard to quit. Couldn't quit. Didn't make any difference. I tried really hard. I prayed about it. I was like, oh, Lord, help me quit. And then all of a sudden I got sick. And I swear it was Carol, my wife, that said, Lord, he needs to stop smoking no matter what. And I was so sick for like 3 weeks. I was just like I could hardly even function. And I never picked up any kind of cigarette after that. But it did take 3 weeks of being super sick and feeling really, really bad until I finally did quit. And I haven't smoked for the last 46 or 47 years. And the only time during that first year, they were talking about habits, during that first year or two, every time I saw somebody smoking in a car, that when they drove by, I could smell the smoke, and I saw them smoking in the car, I thought, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember smoking in my car. It was a kind of a habit. We'd get into the car, my girlfriend and I, and she would light up a cigarette, and I'd light up a cigarette, and we'd go driving together. And even after she wasn't there lighting up a cigarette, I still had that little, oh yeah, I remember, that was enjoyable. But then I reasoned, hey, as long as I quit smoking, I'm never going back to that because it was too hard to quit the second time.
Thank you, Steve. You're not off the hook yet. We're pulling the microphone out one last time. This may feel annoying at first, but again, we are helping you to remodel your brain. And part of it is speaking the truth that your own feelings might not want to acknowledge yet, but that your knowledge, that your intelligence is able to start saying, yeah, that is true, that is meaningful. So I want to encourage you, my friends, what did you hear that deeply moved you? From what Steve just shared with us this evening, was there something that zinged for you? Take your time, think about it.
I was never a smoker, but many of my family members were aunts, uncles, loved ones, my husband, and what Steve was saying, they all had that same sort of emotional, pullback when they would see someone else smoking, even when they were trying to quit, they'd see someone else smoking, like you mentioned, you'd see somebody go by in the car, sitting on the porch, and just getting that whiff of the cigarette smoke. There is some sort of emotional attachment to that it was very hard for them to overcome that emotional attachment.
Yes. Steve has something further he'd like to add.
I mentioned that I hadn't smoked for like 46 years. I went to the doctors, and during the exam, the doctor said, "Have you ever smoked 100 cigarettes in your lifetime?" And I'm thinking, hey, that was 46 years ago. That's not an issue. And she said, "No, if you've ever smoked 100 cigarettes in your lifetime, you need to have an angiogram," or whatever they call that thing that you check your arteries. And so I did, and it was like my aorta was fine. What I didn't realize was my father had died of a ruptured aorta at 43. And then about, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 days later, it was within a couple weeks, I got an email from a friend, one of my college friends, who had just had emergency surgery that had to repair his aorta because he also had smoked more than 100 cigarettes in his lifetime.
Anyone else? Anything you've learned here, either from Steve's testimony tonight or just from this evening, from the information presented, that makes you feel a step towards, hey, yeah, I really want to quit. Something that is strengthening your resolve that this is something I need to do. I want to add something right now in advance of our next meeting. We're going to be encouraging each of you to keep a journal. There are many ways you can journal. All you need is just a method of jotting down notes at a moment's notice and then being able to read back through the notes when you want to. You can go low tech if you wish, a small spiral-bound notebook and a pencil stub like some old-timey detective. You can use the notes function on your smartphone if you like getting into the 21st century. Personally, for self-improvement, quick journaling, what I have found helpful for myself, there's a journal app called Day One, which I have found really useful. And it's free on Android and iPhone devices. But I encourage you today, tonight, start figuring out which method you'd like to use and bring it to every meeting. So you can jot down the promises and tips that we'll be sharing with you. You're going to find yourself using it in a number of different ways. But it's time for our group pray and say. We're enlisting the power of God plus the power of daily practice to change our brains. But your brain needs to hear it. Think of it as our huddle up pep talk. Football players getting together right before they hustle onto the field to face an opponent. So we're going to all just stand together right where you are, and we're going to repeat together our group promise, our group prayer, and our group affirmation. We're going to start with this powerful promise from the Bible. I'd like you to all read the screen here with me. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." God knows how to deliver you out of temptation. He will put the desire in your heart, and then he will help you persevere, quit for good, and build a new life, a life without the chains of addiction. Let's say our verse one more time. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Let's say this short prayer out loud, a prayer that you might find yourself using as one of the ways to break a negative thought or an urge in your brain. Let's say it together. Dear God, thank you that by your power and strength, I am living free. Amen. And lastly, let's repeat this affirmation together. I hate nicotine, but I love living free. Now let's say it like it's true, like you really do mean it. Even if you don't feel that way at the moment, even if you can feel in your heart, in your brain, in your tongue, in your fingers, but I still do like nicotine. Let's say this as if it's true. One more time. I hate nicotine, but I love living free. We're adding this to our other phrases that will help remodel our thinking about nicotine. Not an option. I hate nicotine. We're not just removing nicotine, we're replacing it with a life of living free. So we're going to say it one last time together. I hate nicotine, but I love living free. Please bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we could gather here this evening We are people from all walks of life, many different experiences, many different reasons that we've made the choices that we've made, and many different habits or addictions that we face or have faced. And I ask, Lord, that each person here tonight will have found some encouragement, will have found some reminder of how powerful you are, of how you can change our way of thinking, and that if we give you that permission, that you can work mightily to remove addictions, to remove habits, to remodel the ways that we think, to help us to reframe, and to be able to move forward on a journey to freedom. Please be with each of our friends here this evening who have joined specifically with the goal of quitting nicotine. Bless all the rest who are here to support them, and bring us back again tomorrow evening. Help us also to find others who want to know this, who would need to know this information, and bring them as well. Thank you for this, Lord, this opportunity to share and to learn together. Amen. You may be seated. Now, there are some tracts that you're going to be receiving every night. Every night, anywhere from 2 to 3 tracts that you'll be receiving to take home with you that either build on what you just learned tonight or start setting you up for the next night's information. So I would encourage you to get these tracts as you exit this evening. If you come to a meeting and you happen to have missed a previous meeting, make sure you mention to the people in the back, hey, I missed session whatever, and we'll make sure you get those tracts. If you missed the meeting and you wanted the tracts sooner, you can download them as well. The top link here on the screen, rxf.fyi/tracts, will take you to the website for the Living Free program where all those tracts are available. That's a really great resource to share with others as well, too, who might want this information. In addition, the second link, which is a little hard to see on the screen right now, I'm going to fix that for the future sessions. That's rxf.fyi/quitnow. We are filming these sessions. We are putting them up on the church YouTube channel. They're going to be there with links to the various items that have been mentioned during the presentation, such as that Day 1 journaling app that I mentioned a little bit ago. And so if you want to go back and rewatch, if in the future you find yourself smoking or using nicotine and you want to go through the program again, if you want to share this with someone that you know who could use this information, please do share that. Now, also, I mentioned that we are wanting to support you in your journey to freedom during these 10 sessions by providing you daily contact, and that's where our Living Free friends come in. So can I just see a raised hand from anybody who's planning on being a Living Free friend? And I know that some of them are out in the foyer right now, so we might not see all of them. But raise your hand if you're planning on being a Living Free friend during the program. Got 2 here. So if you guys look behind you, make sure you catch the faces and raised hands there. Dan is, I believe, also raised his hand. And then we do have others who are in the hallway. So what we would love for you to do is before you leave tonight, that you connect with one of these people, that you exchange information, because what we're going to be asking them to do is to check in with you at least 2 times a day. Nothing big. This is not going to be for a long discussion. They're not going to be psychoanalyzing you. Literally, it could be just a text back and forth. How's it going? I'm doing fine. That could be initiated by your Living Free friend in the morning and evening. Hey, checking in on you. How are you doing? But we also wanted to be a resource for you the other direction. Let's say you make day 3 your quit day. And by day 4, you're like, wow, this is going okay, but I'm still struggling at certain times of day or certain situations. We want your Living Free friend to be a quick contact for you. Hey, quick text message goes out. Hey, just pray for me. Hey, help. Whatever you agree on as your little contact word, as your signal. And then they can either pray for you right then, text you back, say, hey, don't forget this promise from God that we've talked about. They can call you if you were to request a call. We don't want these to be something that's going to take up a lot of your time or even really theirs. But whatever is going to work best for you is what we want to provide. The next meeting is going to be tomorrow night, which is Friday, February 21 at 6 p.m. The topic is called Getting Ready to Quit. I want to remind you to bring a journal. We're calling them the Better Way Journal. You're going to want to bring some method of journaling. Thank you for your attention this evening. Good night.